All right, so the El-Fattah immigration story seems to be coming to a close here. We've got the latest updates. I think what will be basically the final updates, the final substantive updates on this coming in today. There'll probably be some more bickering over it over the next few days, but I think the final substantive updates have really come in today. So we'll get to that in a minute. Keir Starmer sort of doubling down. But first of all, from just a day and a half ago or something, this is a video of Robert Jemrick on Sky News talking about the El-Fattah case. Now, just to fill you in on some of the background, if you don't already know what's going on here, we've obviously covered this several times already. I've been over all the tweets, so I'm not going to do the whole thing again. But essentially, to summarize, guy called El-Fattah is his name. I can't remember the rest of his name, but that's his last name, okay? El-Fattah. So this guy El-Fattah is an Egyptian pro-democracy advocate who spent a lot of the last sort of 10 years in and out of prison fighting for democracy in Egypt. And in 2021, he was granted, under the Conservative government, British citizenship. Now, as a result of how our immigration laws are set up, and I'll explain how that works to you. Basically, it used to be, back in the day, in like the 80s or whatever, your birthright citizenship, you could get citizenship if your father had British citizenship. You could apply for citizenship and you'd be entitled to it, basically. You get patrilineal citizenship. I think if they have birthright, But if your mother had birthright citizenship, you could not get matrilineal citizenship. So that's obviously unfair, and there's no reasonable justification for that. So in 2001 or 2, Tony Blair signs in a law redressing the historical discrimination there, basically saying, no, that applies to the matrilineal side too. Because there's no reason, there is no justification, that's a totally fine law that any reasonable person, any liberal person, I don't mean liberal as in left-leaning, I mean liberal in the classic sense of liberal, any reasonable person who believes in the rule of law should absolutely think that should be the case. It should be equal. It should be the same. You should not have a situation where the patrilineal entitlements are stronger than the matrilineal entitlements. That's obvious. It's obviously fucked. Shouldn't be the case. So that law's signed in. Totally reasonable. Totally fine. Now, 2019, there's a ruling in relation to a sex offender that basically, because in the patrilineal case, it was such that there is no standard of character or life in the UK test. You were simply entitled to the citizenship. It must be that case for the matrilineal version of the policy too. You cannot have a distinction between those two where one of them has... it was just for people who were like birthright pre-1983, yes. So you cannot have it be a case where, you know, there's less entitlements one side than the other, once again. So obviously the Supreme Court came down and said, you cannot discriminate here. You cannot discriminate along these lines. Totally reasonable, totally good ruling that everyone should support. So in 2021, comes around to El-Fattah applying for citizenship, and he's granted it, obviously, without any check into his social media or anything like that, or any quizzing about whether he believes in British values, because that is what he was entitled to under the law, and to take that away would be unjust. It would not be in accordance with British values, would not be in accordance with liberal values, Western values, the rule of law, any of that. It would be fucked, obviously. Now, slight complication there, because when El-Fattah was granted citizenship, he was already in prison in Egypt. So now you're in a situation where there is someone who is a British citizen, a rightful British citizen, whose mother is in Britain. He's a rightful British citizen who is locked up for his pro-democracy speech in Egypt. Now, obviously, in that situation, there is it's incumbent upon the British government to attempt to free that guy. Why would you not? That is absolutely the right thing to do. That is the moral thing to do. That is the Western thing to do, the British thing to do, the Christian thing to do, the Judeo-Christian thing to do. Obviously. Regardless of whether he said mean things about white people or Jews, and not that he said anything about Jews, he said Zionists, in 2010. Regardless of that, it is the right thing to do to make sure that guy is freed and returned to the UK, of which he is a citizen. Yet Conservatives have suddenly changed their mind on that. They suddenly believe, despite advocating for his release under Liz Truss, James Cleverly and Liz Truss fighting for it, despite advocating for his release, they've now decided, actually, if you've got racist tweets in your past, you shouldn't be a British citizen. You should have that revoked, and you should be deported. You should be deported, and you should be locked up in a foreign country for your pro-democracy speech. That's what Conservatives are saying now. That's what my free speech warriors are saying now. Now, obviously, I don't think Lucy Connolly should have been locked up. Now, she did plead guilty, which is an important detail that many people like to overlook, but I don't think she should have been locked up. Much like I don't think this guy should be locked up. But for some reason, Conservatives, Reform supporters can't seem to manage the consistent standard. They can't seem to quite manage it. Very curious, very curious. I wonder what the difference is. Surely it's not skin color. Anyway, let's take a look at Robert Jenrick here. That's Robert Jenrick, who walked around London going, oh, sorry, not London. I think it was Birmingham. Oh, there's no white faces around here. Why are there no white faces around here? I walked around here for 5 minutes. I didn't see a single white person. That's Robert Jenrick. Talking about how El-Fattah should have his citizenship stripped.
What do you think the Prime Minister has done wrong then?
But the Prime Minister took to social media, as did the Deputy Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary, to say that they were delighted that this man was now in our country. It turns out that even a cursory look at his X account shows that he's in fact an extremist. He said that he hates white people, that the police should be killed and are not human beings. He called for Downing Street to be burnt down in the City of London as well. He's denied the Holocaust. He said that he hates Jewish people, that Jewish weddings should be attacked with drones. On and on and on it goes. This man should not be in the UK, and the Prime Minister of all people, using the authority of our country as our leader, should not be out there welcoming him. He's in fact a dangerous individual, and it's
so yeah, I mean that's maybe a good point to bring up. This one tweet I saw from Academic Agent, where someone said, "I can't make it any more simple." Here's a photo of Robert Jenrick puppeteering, I can't remember this guy's name, and Zoom a historian with a Star of David on his chest. And Academic Agent here saying, it's strange how all their actions consistently advance their interests and how all their targets are anti-Zionists. As I've said numerous times, I see these people as going entirely in the wrong direction. And this guy's pretty far right. Okay, this guy's pretty far right.
Our country, that we've expended political capital to get him brought here.
You say, Robert Jenrick, it's a cursory look, but perhaps it's a cursory look that plenty of your Conservative colleagues also didn't make. Just looking back in 2022, Rishi Sunak said he'll raise the issue of El-Fattah in Egypt at the COP27 summit. James Cleverly posted online. Last night I spoke to the sisters of this man. We will continue to work tirelessly for his release. Alicia Kearns, fellow Tory frontbencher, saying he must now be returned home to his child in Brighton. It seems like successive governments, Conservative and Labour, may not have done their due diligence.
That's right. Look, this is a massive failure by the British state over a sustained period of time. The civil servants...
So what is the failure? So there is a... So I'm going to spoil ahead a little bit. Starmer's saying there was an information failure because no civil servants or MPs seem to know about these tweets in the past. And I would agree that that is an information failure if none of them knew about it. But what should have been done differently? Other than just maybe not being quite so glowing about the statements, not being quite so, you know, jumping up and clicking your heels together about how, oh, we're so glad he's back. Even though I don't think he ever lived in the UK in the first place. But we're so glad he's back. You know, other than just not being so emphatic about it, what should have been done differently? Because the law shouldn't have been applied differently. They shouldn't have campaigned it differently. He should have been released. He should have been released. He should be in the UK. He should be a citizen. His claimed citizenship was legitimate. Like, it's all reasonable. All reasonable, all the steps, even taking in this new information about the tweets. Nothing should have been done differently. And I truly don't see the argument that it should have.
Home Office as well should have known. In fact, almost certainly they did know, because a major European Peace Prize, which he was about to receive, was rescinded because the organisers of that prize in 2015
so
saw
let me
his
just
horrible
ask you a question on this then.
tweets.
So does this mistake lie with the Prime Minister and fellow senior Tories, or does it lie with civil servants, in your opinion?
I think it's both. It's incumbent upon leaders to do their due diligence and to know about people that they're speaking about. And if the Prime Minister takes the frankly extraordinary step of personally tweeting to welcome somebody to the UK, to say he is delighted.
Or this to end up in Brighton, fate worse than Egyptian prison. I mean, Brighton's not that bad, really, is it? It's full of gays, but that's it, really. That's the biggest problem.
And that it was a top priority of his to bring him to the country, then that is a very high bar. And the Prime Minister should have known who he was talking about, rather than just shooting from the hip, as seems to be his excuse today.
It's okay if you've never seen the beach before. If you're going to beaches in Britain, you're kind of losing in the first place, I'm not going to lie. If you're actually going to the beach, you're kind of losing, just period. The beaches all suck in Britain. They all fucking blow.
There's been a litany of failure that goes back a long way. This man should not have been given British citizenship in 2021. His links to the UK are tenuous at best. He wasn't born here. He wasn't raised here. He wasn't educated here. He didn't work here. It's all because of a loophole whereby his mother spent a short period in the UK. Given his social media, which was well known to many at the time, clearly the Home Office and the Foreign Office back then should not have granted him citizenship. What do we do now? Well, I would argue, now that we know all this about him, it's in the public domain.
That is why we
he does have extremist views.
Facts.
His citizenship should be revoked and he should be deported.
Hindsight is, of course, a wonderful thing, but bearing that in mind, do you know what you know now, of course, do you think he should have remained?
Yeah. So he's saying it's a loophole. It's not a loophole at all. It's not a loophole. It's just how the law is set up. That was how the law was set up in the 80s or whatever. So that's how it is, okay? That has to be applied consistently. That's how... that you cannot just retroactively be like, okay, you're entitled to this, but we're not giving it to you. No, you have to give people the entitlements they have under the law. You can't pick and choose.
Given his social media, which was well known to many at the time, clearly the Home Office and the Foreign Office back then should not have granted him citizenship. What do we do now? Well, I would argue, now that we know all this about him, it's in the public domain, he does have extremist views, his citizenship should be revoked and he should be deported.
Hindsight is, of course, a wonderful thing, but bearing that in mind, do you know what you know now, of course, do you think he should have remained incarcerated in Egypt for what he was accused of there?
Well, I don't support arbitrary detention. Of course I don't. And nobody should be a political prisoner because of the things that they say. That is a separate issue, however, to whether he should have been given citizenship and brought to the United Kingdom. The UK could argue that individuals should be free from detention.
Let me just come back in. At the time, did you think he should be released? Did you agree with your colleagues, James Cleverly and others, who were fighting for him to be released? Did you know about these tweets before anybody else?
Well, I wasn't a minister responsible for these matters at the time. If I had been, I would hope that I would have done some due diligence. Yes, because as it turns out, many people knew about these issues at the time. He had had a major European Peace Prize revoked because people had seen the true nature of his extremist views. Look, we are where we are now. Those responsible will have to answer for their mistakes in the past. All we can do is keep the British public safe from an extremist individual and ensure that we don't look like a laughingstock on the international stage. And I would argue the best way to achieve that is for this man's citizenship to be revoked. The powers exist for that to happen and for him to leave the United Kingdom. You cannot have a prime minister just days ago at a Downing Street anarchist
it is mass hysteria, dude. I just can't believe it. We are actually saying you should have your citizenship stripped if you made mean tweets 15 years ago. That is legitimately the argument that is being made right now. You were rightfully entitled to citizenship, which you were granted. We're taking it away because we found out that 15 years ago, you made some very, very rude tweets.
Saying that he was going to eradicate anti-Semitism, and then tweeting a few days later that he's delighted that a rabid anti-Semite is now in our own country.
I've got funk, you've got soul, we've got everybody. I've got the gift, gonna stick it in the goal, it's time to move your body, monkey emoji, man dancing emoji.
Huh? 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 Don't, dude, you're so close to derailing me. We're gonna get through this segment.
In fact, we probably
Thank you for the $10,
to
generally.
our country at taxpayers' expense. And it's not just the anti-Semitism, it's the homophobia, the incitement to violence,
Let me
attacks
just-
on
let
the
me just
police,
clar-
you
yeah, but let
name
me
it.
just
This is a
clarify.
bad man, he shouldn't be in our country.
You said the Prime Minister was tweeting in support of an anti-Semite, perhaps before he knew he was an anti-Semite. You'd accept the
But
timeline
he's the
of
Prime Minister
events.
of our country. He's the Prime Minister. He's not just an
Okay, sorry,
ordinary
let's get back
critic
into
of the
this. Jim really
incitement
fucked
to
me up.
violence. And it's not just the anti-Semitism, it's the homophobia, the incitement to violence,
Let me
attacks
just-
on
let
the
me just
police,
clar-
you
yeah, but let
name
me
it.
just
This is a
clarify.
bad man, he shouldn't be in our country.
You said the Prime Minister was tweeting in support of an anti-Semite, perhaps before he knew he was an anti-Semite. You'd accept the
But
timeline
he's the
of
Prime Minister
events.
of our country. He's the Prime Minister. He's not just an ordinary person, a campaigner who's reached to his Twitter account a couple of days after Christmas and has done some unfortunate tweets that he lives to regret once he's done a bit of checks on social media. Don't you hold the Prime Minister to a higher standard that he might actually...
Dude, this has been a consistent failure to identify these tweets throughout your government and his, if you take it to be a failure. Which, I mean, is arguable because it's not actually relevant to the case at all. It is like pure, like, bitching. It's like just bitching. It's just bitching. It's whining.
Look into who he's celebrating. Why did he do this? Well, either he was totally ignorant and thought that this was some kind of diplomatic coup, whilst in fact it was a diplomatic disaster, or he had some other alternative motive that I don't know. But whatever it is, he made a terrible error of judgment. The civil servants and team around him failed very badly. He's been made to look a fool. He now can rectify it by rescinding that warm welcome, distancing himself unequivocally.
Here's the thing, man. They have actually overshot in such a retarded and bizarre way, and it's so strange that it hasn't come back to get them. Should the argument not be something like, it's not he shouldn't get citizenship because he's got mean tweets. It should be, this is like a sign that he has extremist views and could be a risk to the country. Why are we letting extremists who could be a risk into the country? But no one's even arguing that they think he's a risk. No one's even, like, arguing that. I haven't seen anyone seriously arguing they think this guy's gonna, like, do fucking suicide bombings or, like, kill anyone. I like, haven't seen anyone arguing that. I just see them literally just kvetching. Just complaining about the tweets. Just saying he shouldn't be here because of the tweets.
Equivocally from the comments of this man, including the anti-Semitism, and beginning procedures to get him out of the country, because it was clearly an error for him to be brought here in the first place.
And the assumption then is, if, as you would like to see, his British citizenship was revoked, he would be an Egyptian citizen and would go back to the country where he was incarcerated. That's what you would like to see, is it?
Well, I just don't think the British public should be the ones who have to bear the cost for this. I don't want to see people arbitrarily detained.
Bear the cost?
The other thing that could happen.
What cost? You assume he's not going to work? Isn't he like a pretty well-respected like writer? I think he's probably still going to be working. He's probably still quite invested in stuff like Palestine. I imagine he'll be talking about that a lot, making money off of that, contributing to the economy, paying taxes.
Let's be clear. Let's be clear here. I am elected as a British member of Parliament. My sole interest is...
There is no argument that there are grounds for removing citizenship. Like I went over at the start of the segment, which you may not have been there for, that the way he got citizenship simply is not subject to good character or life in the UK tests. And that's not how the law was set up, because it's a very old law that he got citizenship under because of his mother's citizenship status. And you can't just make specific exceptions where you're like, I understand the law applies this way, but not for you. That's not rule of law. That's not, you know. That's I don't even know what you call it. It's like obscene. It's just like totally fucked.
Is in protecting the British people. Put the British people's safety first. Enough of this virtue signalling to look like one is compassionate or kind or on the side of celebrity campaigns.
Dude.
Let's put the British people's safety first. And having an extremist
Okay, here we go. He's getting to the risk argument now.
who has espoused anti-Semitic views, who's called for police officers to be killed, for Downing Street to be burnt down in our country, is not something that I would ever
Let me just
put my
ask you
name
this
to.
one final question. Should his citizenship not be revoked and he remains here in Britain, then there are other means of looking into these historic posts, right? I mean, this could be a police investigation. He could be, brought
Yes,
to...
this is Robert Jenrick, the MP who saw fit when visiting a children's asylum processing centre. It's not accommodation or anything like that, remember. It's just a centre where where children go to have their application for asylum processed. He saw a Mickey Mouse mural on the wall and insisted it be painted over because it may incentivize child asylum seekers to come to the UK to see our Mickey Mouse murals in our asylum processing centres.
Justice for that, potentially, or certainly looked at for that. Could that happen?
Well, it's certainly possible. There are grounds to suggest that his tweets have incited violence. And you've got to remember that it's only a few months ago that an unfortunate comedian, Graham Linehan, arrived at an airport and was arrested.
They're
for
world
something very
famous.
mild that
They're
he'd
world
said.
famous.
It wasn't so long ago that Lucy Connolly was imprisoned for 30 months, served 15 months for a very reprehensible tweet, but nonetheless one that she later deleted. We seem to be living in a two-tier country where those individuals get...
So again, Lucy Connolly, I agree, should not have gone to prison. I think an investigation was warranted. The tweet was incredibly inflammatory, bordered on incitement, wouldn't pass the whatever test it is, Brandenburg or whatever, but bordered on as good incitement as you can get. Probably shouldn't have been locked up, but her issue was she pled guilty. That's the big issue with Lucy Connolly. She pled guilty. That's why she got so fucked. She also got caught up in the increased enforcement around those riots, but I think there should have been increased enforcement around those riots. You know, when there are riots, you should have increased enforcement. That's totally reasonable. It's just obviously you can get cases like this where someone is sort of rushed through the system, gets bad legal advice or whatever, or doesn't get legal advice, pleads guilty to something they probably shouldn't, and then they're kind of fucked over. Obviously, that shouldn't happen, but it's not the same as this. It's not the same as this.
Arrested or punished for their misdemeanors or supposed misdemeanors, and yet this man gets welcomed by the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, and the...
Dude, those riot streams were peak. He fucking battered him. He fucking battered him in the corner. He fucking battered him.
Secretary. Ordinary law-abiding members of the public will be watching your programme today thinking they are mugs, that they are going about their business, behaving lawfully, and yet this individual is being welcomed into our country.
Well, my understanding is that this El-Fattah guy hasn't lived in Britain before. Like, he has British citizenship, but he got his British citizenship in prison. So none of those tweets were posted in the UK, as far as I'm aware. Literally none of them. So yeah, there is not really a good argument about this. There really is not. So, what else have we got here? So, guys, I have to take a small L, okay? I'm taking a small L. Because yesterday, I said I didn't believe Keir Starmer had the spine to double down on this. I thought he was going to be, too pussy, too worried about pissing off the reform-minded people, and was not going to double down on this. I thought maybe there was a chance Shabana comes out, because she's more tapped in on sort of like the Blairite mindset, I think. But, I didn't think Starmer was going to double down. But lo and behold, I was wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. Very happy to be wrong. Number 10 says Keir Starmer still considers Alaa Abd El-Fattah's arrival in the UK to be welcome because he is a British citizen who is unfairly detained abroad. Brilliant. Brilliant. Totally reasonable. Totally reasonable. So, they also said he can't be deported. Now, I don't know how true this is. I think maybe there is something where the Home Secretary can strip people's citizenship or something. But it shouldn't happen. And under the law, there's no reason for it to be. So, I don't know if they're playing games there. I honestly don't know how the law works close enough to be 100% sure of that. And then we had this. So, Yvette Cooper says the civil servants in charge of Alaa Abd El-Fattah's case were unaware of his historic tweets. It's clear that this has been unacceptable failure and long-standing procedures and due diligence arrangements have been completely inadequate. So, the statement here is about an information failure. So yeah, Keir Starmer says he's taking steps to address the information failures over Alaa Abd El-Fattah's abhorrent tweets. With the rise of anti-Semitism and recent horrific attacks, I know this was added to the distress of many in the Jewish community in the UK. So, all that's being said here is, basically, we understand that this guy's tweets may make Jews feel legitimately uncomfortable. And that should have been flagged up before we made any statements. So there's no real, substantive issue here. It's not like this should have had an effect on his immigration, or Keir's not saying it should have had an effect on citizenship or immigration or anything like that. They're just saying, we should have known about this, because obviously, if you find out about this stuff and see politicians saying, we're delighted to welcome this guy, maybe you're like, oh, I'm a bit worried. Oh, I'm a bit worried. And, I can kind of see that, the tweet about the guy who made a joke, I want to get my own drone so that I can target Zionist weddings or some shit like that. Is I can understand maybe the Keir's jumping up and down, skipping along, clicking his heels together. Alaa Abd El-Fattah's in the country. Let's go. And Jews are like, oh, why are you saying that? Why are you saying that? I kind of get it. But, yeah, obviously, regardless, we should still be welcoming him because he's a British citizen who was unfairly detained for his free speech in Egypt. So, good to have him. So, then we get some more of the right-wing discussion about this. So, Rupert Lowe has been on a tear. And I know Rupert Lowe is absolutely fucking lost for talking points now. Because it's just stupid fucking geriatric bastard. It's just talking so much shit, man. He's just going around basically asking, is Alaa Abd El-Fattah British? Which is just the most raped position to be taking now. So all your position is now is, he's not British by my definition. You're not taking any stance on the policy or whether it was applied properly or whether Keir Starmer did the right thing here or whether the government should have or could have acted differently. He's just going around going, he's not British. He's not British. Literally the most raped, walked back, cornered position you can possibly take in this situation. It's beyond sickening. Do I think it's worth a mention? No, not really. I think it's just hysteria. I think the only thing I think is maybe coming out and preempting some of the controversial statements he's made would have helped the PR of Labour. So it should have been flagged up. It's information that would have been good to know. That's my position. I don't think any of this stuff. I think Keir, I think Keir's initial statement's fine to me. I'm delighted to welcome this guy to the country. Yeah, you should be. Because he's a rightful British citizen who was wrongfully detained in Egypt for his free speech, fighting for values that we believe in. Yeah. So the initial statement's fine to me. I don't think he should have said, oh, I understand he said stuff about the Jews and the whites. I don't think he should have said that. That's not relevant to me. The only reason I think that should be a consideration anyway is because it might help other people get on board. Yeah, I agree. We should be proud about this. We should be proud about this. This is living your values. This is demonstrating British values. We made an agreement. We made agreements We honor our agreements. This guy had an entitlement under our law to citizenship. So we honored that agreement regardless of, what he says. And then when he's imprisoned, we fought to get him released because he did nothing wrong and he was fighting for the same shit we believe in. So welcome to the fucking country. That absolutely should be a point of pride. The issue is, there's some slight, and obviously most of it's driven by just the same retarded hysteria that people have in response to everything Labour do at this point. But there could have been maybe a better, sharper statement that emphasized those values more instead of just saying how happy you were about him being here and potentially preempted some of the more controversial statements. That's probably would have helped Keir and Labour. But broadly, this is totally fine and should be a point of pride. So yeah, and I'm just saying, I just have a few academic agent posts here because he's one of the only right wingers that I see being kind of cogent about this. Still has his faculties together, being like, "Why are you saying he should be deported over tweets? What's going on?" Yeah, so it's all the ethnats bugging out about this need to goy harder. They'll just keep attacking me. That's fine. So Rupert Lowe going, is Allah Abd El-Fattah British? This is the defining question all MPs need to be asked. The answer is obviously, evidently, comprehensively, no. Ask your MP. Well, it's not evidently, obviously, evidently, comprehensively no, is it? Because there are many different forms of British. Is he of one of the British ethnicities that we consider natively British? No, he's not. Was he raised in Britain? No, he wasn't. Is he a British citizen? Yes, he is. So, in at least one way, he is certainly British. In at least one way, he is absolutely, evidently, comprehensively, obviously British. In at least one way. Your definition of British is not the one everyone subscribes to, nor is it one that can be objectively proven as the definition of British. It's absurd to say that you're mystical version of British, where it's it's an interconnected web of shared ancestry and genealogy and history and culture and nation and geography and whatever your fucking mystical, retarded, fucking woo-woo ass definition of British is, cannot be proven to be the objective version. Personally, I generally just go by citizenship. Are you a British citizen? You're British. That's personally. I understand there are other definitions. I'm totally willing to engage with those, like British ethnicities and stuff like that. But to suggest that you have the objective definition of British that can be just shown, it's just evident that this is the definition of British, you're a fucking retard. You're a fucking low-life geriatric moron, and you need to quickly. So Keir here says, as Yvette Cooper set out in her letter, the historic tweets by Allah Abd El-Fattah are absolutely abhorrent. With the rise of anti-Semitism and recent horrific attacks, I know this has added to the distress of many in the Jewish community in the UK. We are taking steps to review the information failure in this case. So I'm not going to go over this whole letter, but there is just sort of one paragraph that I want to pick out, who does sort of emphasize what they're actually complaining about here. I believe it's this one. As you will know, the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister and I were all unaware of those historical tweets and we consider them to be abhorrent. Based on the work I instigated in the FCDO over the weekend, it is apparently not only that current and former ministers were never briefed on these tweets when they spoke publicly about this case in the past, but also that the civil servants in charge of this case were also unaware. I take this extremely seriously, both to ensure we had accurate information and because the deep distress this has understandably caused. It is clear that this has been an unacceptable failure in that long-standing procedures and due diligence arrangements have been completely inadequate for the situation. So we read that part. So yeah, it is very clearly just talking about the idea these tweets weren't known to civil servants. And it's not saying that any decision should have been taken differently, any citizenship should have been granted. It's simply, this has caused distress within the country, and so we should have known about it so that we could have potentially made different statements. So yeah, here's another academic agent's tweet here. We'll read the Farage thing first. So we did cover this briefly yesterday. We'll sort of pick out a few bits here. I've written to Shaban Mahmood urging her to rescind the citizenship of Allah Abd El-Fattah and deport him from the country, over tweets. So we can see here, given Mr. El-Fattah's history of vile public declarations on social media, this was an extraordinary error of judgment. For example, in 2010 he wrote, I consider killing colonialists, and especially Zionists, heroic. We need to kill more of them. That sounds eerily familiar to Lucy Connolly's I don't give a fuck if they all burn. But hey. That same year, he referred to the British as dogs and monkeys. Like that just, I can't not laugh at that. I can't not laugh at that. The tweet where he's like, the British dogs and monkeys really believe terrorists are revealing their plans on social media. Just funny, man. Yeah, this is from 2010 as well. It's just so crazy. And so Nigel Farage also reported him to counter-terrorism police. And academic agent here is saying, basically the perfect slopulist story. Small, self-contained, and symbolic. No real consequences. Zio-compliant. So this is just true. This is just great analysis from academic agent. That is absolutely why they're doing it. It is like a tiny little controversy, vacuum controversy, that no further implications will be drawn from. You can just hammer this one guy and say, revoke his citizenship, deport him, report him to police. There's never going to be any further consequences. It will die in a week. They can just bang on about it. And it's Zio compliant. It works with Israel. Israel will fucking love it. Israel fucking love it. And you can wave around the Jews as the token minority group that you want to stick up for. So here's Ben Habib, who is he heads up the what do they call it? Advanced Party. It's like a reform split-off, reform splinter, trying to push more for the ethnic side, even though we won't get into it. The game is up. The granting of citizenship and then welcoming of Alaa Abd el-Fattah into our country shows how the Conservatives and UK Labour have thrown the British people under a bus. It can no longer be justified. It can no longer be hidden or justified, sorry. There can be no re-election or recycling of these failed politicians. Drain the whole swamp, where have we heard that before, and bring charges against them and members of the civil service. Enough is enough. A complete clear out. Okay, well that won't happen if reform get in. We saw that one. So yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier. Supporters of Nigel Farage's Reform UK held the most extreme views of any party backers, with 71% saying that having British ancestry was a prerequisite for someone to be truly British, and 59% saying they believed that the nation was an ethnic. I don't know what you're trying to say. Strikingly, the findings suggest a significant portion of Farage supporters believe being white is an important national characteristic. What was that I said about Reform voters? It's a kind of a bit of a cringe, snarky tweet here. However, the point stands. It's become clear that Nigel Farage's CivNat stance that he's had for a while is becoming obsolete. You just can't maintain the online right and the gammons that are being swept with that on a CivNat stance right now. You have to shift to FNAT. So it's going to be, you know, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Farage to navigate that. Because the moment you go down that FNAT route, you put off like a whole bunch of other people. Like all of a sudden, that 30% who aren't the FNATs are way more put off. Because that shit is like, you know, as my favorite principled conservative Sargon viewer on YouTube, Harin Gladiv says, people like their black friends. People like their black friends. Unfortunately for you. So, what have we got here? Oh, yes, this is about Farage, so I'll read this quickly. I genuinely cannot get past the galactic levels of hypocrisy here. Farage wanted to take Lucy Connolly, a person convicted of inciting racial hatred via social media, to the US to push his so-called free speech agenda. He put her on a literal stage to discuss the imaginary two-tier justice system they created. And now, he wants the citizenship removed of a man for some very old tweets, for which he has apologized unequivocally. Should we play Spot the Difference to work out why Farage is actively promoting the white lady racist and demanding the deportation of the brown British man? Very snarky phrasing there. Very snarky phrasing there. Unadulterated racism on display for all to see by Farage. Let's not even get started on generic statements, seeing that successive governments have campaigned for his release. Advocacy for his release was a long-standing diplomatic priority under successive governments as he took British citizenship in 2021 under the Conservative government. I don't remember Jenrick or Farage kicking up a fuss about that. To head off the usual suspects, of course, I don't endorse what he said, but in the far-right world, hurty words should not be prosecuted, right? I mean, it is just obscene. It is just totally obscene. So we've got a Jenrick here posting a clip of celebrities calling for his release. So a list of legends being posted by Robert Jenrick here.
Prime Minister Starmer.
Dear Prime Minister Starmer.
Dear Prime Minister Starmer.
Dear Prime Minister Starmer.
Prime Minister, I'm making this video because I,
W. Bill Nye,
a lot of people, and I should imagine yourself included, are deeply concerned.
Dear Prime Minister, I'm reaching out to you today because I'm extremely worried.
I am one of many thousands in Britain and all around the world who are deeply concerned about the fate of the writer Alaa El-Fattah.
The brilliant, courageous and inspiring writer who has been unjustly imprisoned in Egypt for far, far too many years.
In the words of Foreign Secretary David Lammy, Allah is a courageous voice of democracy and a prisoner of conscience.
Having exhausted all other possibilities, his mother, Layla, is now deep into a hunger strike.
She's putting her own life in danger so that her son might finally be able to see his own boy again and live a free life once more in peace and dignity.
Prime Minister, the situation is critical. It's time for urgent action.
Given the fact that the deadline is fast approaching in terms of his mother's life, as well as his own safety.
We need a powerful intervention from you as his Prime Minister, and indeed mine.
End the family's suffering, save the life of Dr. Soif, and bring Allah home to his family, his son in Brighton.
It's time to make the call, Prime Minister.
The world is watching.
Let's free Allah.
Let's free Allah.
We're counting on you. Thank you. Free Allah.
How do you get citizenship? So I've explained this about 6 times over the course of the segment, but obviously coming in late, I will just run through it again quickly. Basically, the way the law was set up in the 80s was such that if you had a father pre-1983 who had birthright citizenship in the UK, you were automatically granted citizenship, or you were entitled to citizenship and could apply for it. They changed the law in 2001 or 2 to equalize it between genders, to make it, just. And so anyone with a mother or father with birthright citizenship pre-1983 could themselves be entitled to British citizenship. Fast forward to 2019, a sex offender attempts to get citizenship under this rule, and the Supreme Court rules that because in the case of patrilineal citizenship, there was no standard of character or British life test, there could not be those tests in the matrilineal case, which, as much a bad outcome letting a sex offender into the country, is the right ruling, obviously. You can't delineate between the two tests in an unjust way just based on gender. That would be ridiculous. So that ruling's made. And in 2021, while Abd El-Fattah is in prison in Egypt, he applies for British citizenship as his mother had birthright citizenship pre-1983. And he's granted it. From that moment, Abd El-Fattah is considered a British citizen stuck in Egyptian jail for his pro-democracy speech. So he should be freed. He should be brought to the country, as far as I'm concerned. And there is no reason to revoke his citizenship for 15-year-old tweets. So, what does Jenrick say here? The celebrities who campaigned for Abd El-Fattah to come to the UK were the extremist useful idiots. They should withdraw their effusive praise for him and apologise for campaigning for an anti-British, anti-white, anti-Semitic extremist to come to our country. Starmer and our weak political class should stop bending the knee to performative campaigns, but keeping the British people safe first, second, and last. Wow. Powerful stuff, man. So yeah, then Matt Goodwin talking about this as well. I'd like to see all these celebrities doing a sequel video in which they read out his tweets. So would I, to be honest. That would go fucking hard. That would go so hard. I Hate White People is read by Stephen Fry. I'm Proud of Being Racist Against Whites is read by Olivia Colman. We'll find a terrorist cell to kill their children and their mothers is read by Paloma Faith. Go Burn the City or Downing Street or Hunt the Police, you fools is read by Shami Chakrabarti. We got Drew Pavlo here. Allah Abd El-Fattah posted in Arabic, if we can't kill the officers, let's blah, blah, blah. We just read that one. Egypt was actually 100% right to lock this guy up. Sisi was a lion for keeping him in jail. Can't believe this is the scum the UK choose to import into their country. So, Drew Pavlo now does not believe in free speech, I guess. He doesn't believe in, like, the Brandenburg test. He doesn't believe in having, like, a high standard for incitement. He thinks that if you're saying violent things on social media, you should just be locked up. Sorry, what's your stance on Lucy Connolly, Drew? Sorry, what's your stance on Lucy Connolly? Like, it's obscene. The double standard is just so obvious. Then, idiot Rupert Lowe again. This petty political point scoring around Allah Abdel-Fattah is so boring. They did this, he said that, she signed this, chasing votes, achieve subtle, park it. I'll work with anyone in Parliament to get the scumbag deported, and the rest just like him. Right, yeah, because this isn't political point scoring. Nice one, retard. So, let's pull up an LBC debate on this.
We are talking about the case of Allah Abd El-Fattah, the British-Egyptian national who returned to the UK on Boxing Day after spending a decade in Egyptian jails. Successive British governments battled to get him out of prison. The Prime Minister said he was delighted to welcome Mr. El-Fattah back to the UK. And then, of course, there were the revelations of his historic racist tweets for which he has now apologised. Joining me to discuss this case further is Gawain Tola, member of Reform UK's decision-making board, who has been an advisor to Nigel Farage for more than 20 years. Mr. Tola, thank you very much indeed for being on the programme this afternoon. Good afternoon. I know you are deeply critical of the way in which not just the government, but previous governments have handled Mr. El-Fattah's situation. But it is complicated by the fact that he is a dual national, isn't it?
Well, this is an interesting one. And one of the things that I take issue with is, and you've repeated it yourself, is return to Britain. You can only return to a place you've been to before. So he's not returning, he's coming to Britain. That's point one.
So I don't know if this is true. I feel like he may have visited. I haven't seen people address that. I think his mother's lived here for a while. And he hasn't seen his kid in a long time, but his kid was brought to the UK basically because they wanted him to get better support for his autism. So I don't, because obviously he's been in prison for a lot of his kid's life. He's been in prison for the last 12 years or whatever the fuck. So I don't know if he's been to Britain before. It may be accurate to say he's returning.
Point two, he only received British nationality.
Loosely accurate anyway.
3-4 years ago. So he's in his 40s. He's just got it whilst he applied. His family applied for him while he was in prison. Now, his mother's, you talk about his birthright. Yes, his mother has a birthright of being a British citizen because she was born here. Now, the question is, and Emily Thornberry's quote when you were talking to her earlier, or the LBC was talking to her earlier, she wasn't sure as whether this was discretionary or by right. And so I think that's one of the questions that has to be asked and has to be got to the bottom of. Secondly, even if he was granted this right, so of citizenship, and remember, it is only joint citizenship; it's not single nationality. And yes, as Joshua Rosenberg pointed out, just burning your ID card doesn't stop you being a citizen. I could cut up my passport tomorrow; it doesn't stop me being a British citizen. So that's silly. But the point is, there's a whole series of questions. There was no due diligence done. There are question marks as to whether the fact ECHR cases have meant that due diligence couldn't be done. There's a whole series of questions on this, and I thought it was somewhat ridiculous to suggest Lucy Connolly, one tweet deleted in 4 hours, is the same as this chap who calls for the murder of Jews and white people and hates this country and so on and so forth. He has apologized. I recognise that.
It's like, dude, they keep saying calling for the murder of Jews and all this stuff as well. Dude, he said it was Zionists every time. It was Zionists or Israelis that he was saying every time. Where's the Jews comments? Where are the Jews comments? You can't just endlessly conflate these things. It's so fucking gay. It is legitimately so fucking gay. There was like a Jew comment about the Holocaust where he was mocking Holocaust denial. And there was the other Jew comment where he said basically white people don't understand that Ethiopian Jews are a thing. You know, you have to present them as European Jews, otherwise white people won't understand what's going on. That was the other one. It's all just like totally nothing post when he's actually talking about Jews.
However, I don't think Lucy Connolly's apology mattered one little hoot. and you can't take a citizenship off her because she's not a foreign national.
But you can under the 1981 Act if someone is determined not to be.
The point about Shabam Begum was that she did have somewhere else to go.
Well, but she didn't, because then they said they wouldn't take her in, so she didn't. It was speculative that she might have.
Well, in which case it's speculative that this chap should have the right to, because he only got it through one parent. So I'm sorry.
I don't understand why that only getting it through one parent matters. I have two sons. My wife is American.
Hold on.
They both have dual nationality. They get it through one parent. That's the rule.
Yet you say that the Bangladeshis didn't want her. Yep.
Yes.
Both her parents were Bangladeshi nationals. So you're talking, it's not the same.
Well, let's talk about another.
Lucy Colony is a British citizen with no allegiance or family links to abroad. So it's just fatuous to make the same claim. It's just silly.
Well, let's ask about another dual national, or a pair of dual nationals, the Tate brothers. These are people, Andrew Tate has...
I noticed that nobody's campaigning for them to be brought back to this country, are they?
But would you campaign for them to be...
I don't know. They should be brought back to this country. They should be fucking extradited. They should be fucking extradited in prison.
Denaturalised. But why not? I mean, given they've talked about bringing the Nazi salute back. Andrew Tate has called Hamas masculine resistance.
Hold on. I've said no. And the reason no is because they're not conducive to good running of this country.
But you're saying no to what? You're saying they should have their nationality revoked?
I'm saying I'm not going to be campaigning for them to be brought back to this country. Absolutely not.
And so what is your view?
The point you're being asked, like, should they have it's about whether the nationality stands, whether the citizenship stands.
Mr. El-Fattah, you want Mr. El-Fattah to have his passport removed, or are you...
I think it's extremely questionable why he got it in the first place. I think there are a whole series of...
No, it's not. No, it's not questionable at all. It's a very clear... The law is so clear. It is like one Google search away for you to understand this. It is so fucking clear. It is not remotely questionable. The law is black and white.
Questions about that. Yes, I think that he is not conducive. Imagine you're Jewish in this country. You're terrified. You're worried because of the hate marches, because of the murders in Manchester, because of the general attitude. And let's welcome some fellow who wishes to see the death of Zionists, and let's have more killed, please. This is extremely concerning. And I'm more worried about those people who are under threat constantly than this one man. Now, he has been released from prison in Egypt, correct? Yes. So the threat to him in that sense is not as great as it was. The President Sisi kept on saying he's an Egyptian citizen. What are you worried about? And it is interesting. And now he is extremely well connected. His mother is a professor of mathematics. His father was a communist activist and also an academic. His aunt is a novelist. His sister.
This guy's fucking awesome.
They're very well connected.
This guy's fucking awesome.
So therefore, there was this an effective, I'll accept that, an extremely effective campaign that managed to convince people like Alicia Kearns, managed to convince people like James Cleverly and others to campaign on his behalf. But I think, to be fair...
I'm sorry, but literally, so he has some mean tweets, but he is a British citizen who got his citizenship rightfully through very clear means that were not questionable at all, that were laid out explicitly. He got citizenship rightfully, was imprisoned in Egypt for promoting Western values, democracy, and we bring him over to be reunited. He's a writer, to be reunited with his professor of mathematics mother, his novelist aunt. You know, where's the problem? This is like elite human capital. This is like pro-Western value, elite human capital that we're freeing from prison and bringing over here.
This whole fuss would almost have
But he had mean tweets in 2010.
If half the government hadn't trumpeted it as the first successful thing they've done since they got elected. And if they hadn't made that, if Number 10's press office hadn't gone, yes, priority, just because they've succeeded in something, I suspect you and I wouldn't be talking about this if the government hadn't made it their big deal for Christmas.
Do you think this case will still be in the headlines a week from now, or is this literally the big deal for everyone this Christmas, and in a week's time we will have forgotten all about him?
Honestly, that entirely depends on events, as we know. Who knows what next absolute foobar the government come up with between then and now? But right now, it does feel that it's unfinished business, yes, and I can see this rolling. And it's silly season. There's not that much news. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. So we might find ourselves talking about it again in a week.
All right. Gawain Toller, thanks very much indeed for being with us this afternoon. Mr. Toller is a member of Reform UK's decision-making board and an advisor to Nigel Farage for more than 20 years.
We're asking whether you think that this man should be deported from Britain. He's a dual citizen. He holds British citizenship and Egyptian citizenship. The complicated factor here is, though, if you deport him to Egypt, where he's just been released from prison, I mean, that would be... should we say, a brave thing to do for the new Home Secretary, wouldn't it, Shabana Mahmood? Because I suspect that she has burnished her credentials as possibly the most right-wing Home Secretary since Jackie Smith back in 2009, and I'm including Suella Braverman and Priti Patel in that list. I suspect that she may well be considering doing this, but what do you think the implications of that would be, and do you think she should? David's in Surbiton. Hello, David.
Hi, Ian.
Hello.
I've always called up in support of Shamima Begum not losing the citizenship, and I would do for this man as well. And the reason for that is because I believe in equality under the law, and that means that if you have a parent or grandparent who comes from a different country, then you shouldn't be treated differently than the likes of me, whose parents and grandparents all come from Britain, which means that anyone who doesn't have that can be treated differently. And that's an inherently racist policy, and it's a very dangerous precedent to set. And although we can, demonise certain individuals based on really horrible things which they've done or said, we shouldn't be allowed that to set a precedent, because we can see this in full effect right now at the moment in the States. For example, there's an Irish woman. Well, she's a US citizen now.
Dude,
but
I can't believe what I'm getting onto it right now.
About 8 years ago.
The Telegraph is such a fucking rag, bro. It's crazy. It's gone so downhill. This year has shown that music gigs are unsafe for Jews. Oh my God.
She wrote a couple of bad checks, and now she's been deported. There's loads of examples of this happening in the States right now, and that's the dangerous precedent that we could set in this country if we allow this to happen. Because if two people commit the same crime, they should both be treated equally, and there's no way that anyone in this country should settle for anything less, unless they're a proud racist.
This guy's spitting.
Right, let me play devil's advocate here. What about the concept that British citizenship is something incredibly valuable? It should be cherished, it should be earned, and if you become a British citizen, you're awarded citizenship by the government of the day, and then it's discovered that you've said things or done things which are prejudicial to the national interest. It could be argued that your citizenship should be forfeited in those circumstances, because you have done things or said things or said things which mean that you shouldn't have been given it in the first place.
What about if it was your granddad came from Pakistan and all the rest of your family were all born in the UK?
Well,
you think that person should be treated differently? Because that's what's happening. That's what's happening in the States, and that's the point.
No, I don't care what's happening in the States. We're talking about what's happening in this country. No, I'm not.
That's the precedent that you set. That's the precedent that you would set.
No, I'm playing, as I said at the beginning, I'm playing devil's advocate to put a different point of view to you, saying that British citizenship is something that has to be earned, and if you do things which mean that you're doing essentially things against the British state, then you should maybe the government should have the right to withdraw that citizenship from you. Now, the complicating factor here is that his mother was born in the UK.
Well, this is the point. This is the whole point. The president I'm trying to point out to you is that you only need to have one grandparent who was born outside this country that you could lose your citizenship. And you're saying, well, just if you offend the state. Well, based on what? Surely if you committed a crime and you're a British citizen, then we're supposed to lock you up and punish you, and you're supposed, and that's the system we're through. Not just, you've upset the government, you haven't done this or that, so we can just, like your guest said, take away people's citizenship willy-nilly. I mean, what's the president that it says for exactly? Surely it must be that if someone's committed committed a crime, then it's down to the state to punish them. Not just say, oh, we don't like what you said, so we're going to remove your... This is inherently racist system to have.
It's nothing. It's not. How is it racist?
It doesn't, because you have to have a heritage outside of the UK to be treated differently under the law.
That's not racist.
That takes away equality under the law based on race. Based on
it's nothing to do with. It's nothing to do with racism. Honestly, why do people have to bring racism into every debate in this country?
That is at the minimum xenophobia. That is at the minimum xenophobia.
It's outrageous.
It's based on a heritage.
No, it's not.
You won't be treated like that properly. I won't be treated like that.
What about if someone was Canadian or Australian or white? I'm not arguing that people should be discriminated on the basis of skin colour, for goodness sake.
Heritage. On their heritage. This is taken away, equality under the law, based on someone's heritage.
No, it's nothing to do with heritage. Honestly.
Of course it is, because you need to have a grandparent or a parent outside of the UK.
But what's that got to do with skin colour?
It's heritage.
No, what's it got to do with skin colour? Answer that question.
My children...
Answer that question. No, before you go on... Before you go on...
You need to be...
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, you need to...
Really? You need the link between race and heritage explained to you, Ian Dale. Are you being serious?
To have your parents and all your grandparents to be from the British, be born and bred in British. That's going to be pretty much exclusively white British people.
Not necessarily.
Mainly.
Yeah, mainly you're right. But that doesn't make it racist. Don't bring racism into everything. It's ridiculous.
Heritage. It's based on heritage, and that makes it inherently prejudiced. If you don't like the word racist, it's prejudice. And I believe in equality under the law, which is not prejudice, because we treat everybody equally. We don't treat...
Let's say, if you've got one non-British grandparent, you could have your citizenship stripped arbitrarily. Would that not essentially invalidate the citizenship of basically all of the Windrush? Basically all Windrush descendants could have their citizenship stripped. Still, even now. Like, that's obscene. That's fucking obscene. That's totally obscene. That would literally be like the most insane, depraved policy.
Treat someone differently because they got a grandparent, they came from Poland or wherever.
Going back to Shamima Begum, though, I mean, she clearly did commit a crime.
Well, punish her then. Bring her back and punish her.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Don't treat her differently because she's got a family that comes from Bangladesh, even though she's never been there. That's racist.
Well, obviously you're going to bring race into everything, aren't you, David? So let's move on. Pauline's in Southampton. Hello, Pauline.
Hello, it's Paulina, actually. I'm a dual national. I am Polish. Born in Poland, and
Oh God, here we fucking go.
Got my British citizenship about 23 years ago through residency. So I came to live here and work here. I'm a secondary school teacher, and I've worked since I got my work permit in the UK. When I became a British citizen, I had to pledge loyalty to...
Yes, but that wasn't required under the law he got his citizenship from, and you cannot take away people's entitlements. Like, dude.
The UK and its laws and its customs, it happened at a ceremony when I received my British citizenship. I believe that if somebody is not respecting the laws of the country and is not loyal to the country, they should not have the country's citizenship. So therefore, I think that this person, the Egyptian person, El-Fattah, who is clearly breaking the laws and not being loyal to the UK, should not have British citizenship, despite having some sort of a relative connection to this country.
Does it make any difference?
I swear they're just like Twitter is just trying to fucking rage bait me so hard right now, just feeding me the dumbest Telegraph headlines. We go from this: music gigs aren't safe for Jews, to The death of the postman? Royal Mail advertises post-person jobs. Fuck off.
For what he said in these historic tweets.
Well, it's good that he's apologised, but those things have been said. And I was actually talking to my partner this morning saying, I work in a secondary school, and our students sometimes get into fights or display violent behaviour, racist behaviour towards others, and they get expelled. And even though sometimes if they're high on the consequence ladder, if they apologise for what they've done, they still lose their place at our school because we do not tolerate racism or violent behaviour towards staff or other students. So this is at much higher level. If somebody said very bad things against the people of Britain and against the authorities of Britain, the fact that but also he's apologised, but then he said that the words were twisted. So for me, that's not a full apology. For me, that's sort of,
but they were twisted.
I'm sorry, but I didn't really mean those things. So I think the intention was there and it should not be tolerated because it could backfire.
So you believe that he should have his citizenship withdrawn and be deported?
If there is a law to withdraw his citizenship, yes, and deported, because from what I've heard, he's not going to face any more prosecution in Egypt because he's been pardoned, so he could live a safe life in Egypt. But for me, he might be a threat in this country to other people.
Joe's in Wandsworth. Hello, Joe.
Yes, hello, good morning.
Hi.
I can only really echo the sentiments of your last caller when, she sort of gave her story of becoming a citizen, but also said, rightly, in my opinion, if you flout that agreement that you made to be a citizen of this country, then perhaps you should risk losing it.
But he did not make any agreement to be fucking not mean on Twitter. Did not say really mean stuff on Twitter in 2010. That was not part of his citizenship. It was not a condition of it. It was unconditional based on his mother's citizenship, based on his mother's birthright. There was no other condition he needed to fulfill other than, what he already had.
And this El-Fattah guy who's just come back to live here has been very vocal about what he really thinks. He might have said sorry. I don't believe he said sorry. I think he's just sorry perhaps that he's been found out and this has come to light because he knows it could risk, his citizenship here. But, really, the greater public good should have been thought of. And I cannot believe that nobody knew about this because they have MI5 and MI6 at their fingertips. So if they don't know, then I give up on the whole system, to be honest.
Well, it is a little odd that these tweets have only just emerged in the last few days. I think some of them had been deleted, but of course you delete a tweet, but you know that somewhere it will be archived and somebody will be able to find it if they really...
Also, guys, now's a great time to remind you, 226 people here, 36 likes on the stream, some of those 190 or so people. Please move the cursor, thumbs up and clicking it or pressing a thumbs up on the mobile device. That'd be hugely appreciated. If you want to take your support one step further, you can donate directly through a Stream Elements link in the pinned chat message. You can also buy a membership to the channel, gift a membership to the channel, gift a whole bunch of memberships randomly throughout the chat. Buy a super chat, which will highlight your message and read it out on TTS, or buy a super sticker, which is a YouTube image or GIF that we highlight in chat. I'll describe it to you. You can go to discord.gg/Kuihman, twitter.com/Kuihman, or reddit.com/r/Kuihman. Thank you. Labour haven't folded. Keir's reaffirmed it. Where was the tweet? I can't see it now, but Keir said he's still welcome to the country because he's a British citizen that was unfairly detained and his citizenship isn't getting revoked. So they're not folding. Whoops. I just went back.
So really, the greater public good should have been thought of. And I cannot believe that nobody knew about this because they have MI5 and MI6 at their fingertips. So if they don't know, then I give up on the whole system, to be honest.
Well, it is a little odd that these tweets...
Thank you for the membership. Thank you. Huge appreciate it. Thank you.
Tweets have only just emerged in the last few days. I think some of them had been deleted, but of course you delete a tweet, but you know that somewhere it will be archived and somebody will be able to find it if they really want to. But it does seem odd that when he was given citizenship that these things weren't discovered then. But maybe it was one of those which, as Emily Thornberry said, it didn't involve politicians' discretion. It was just automatically given because his mother was born here, so it didn't seem to be very controversial. That's the most logical explanation, I suppose.
Well, then are you seriously telling me that anybody who's automatically entitled to it automatically gets it, no matter their past, no matter what they've written or said? Bearing in mind we jailed somebody for some tweets here for nearly 3 years that was a British citizen, is a British citizen, sorry.
Yeah. Well, I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not an expert enough on the immigration system to know exactly what happens. I've always gone from the viewpoint that if you want to become a British citizen, you should have to earn it and you have to abide by the rules to keep it. Dan is in Bristol.
Okay, but you can't just arbitrarily change people's citizenship rules when that's not what the conditions of their citizenship were.
Hello, Dan.
Hello, Ian. So I'm just thinking that this thing is sort of potentially quite dangerous. I mean, my parents came to this country in the mid-50s. My father was part of the Commonwealth. He gained his British citizenship. What does that make me? I mean, I'm a first-generation immigrant. I happen to be white, so nobody, I've never suffered from racism, except people sort of query my name.
Second generation, sure.
So we get down to this thing about character, good character. What the hell does that mean? I mean, does that mean that if I disagree with the government, a particular government, as seems to be happening in America with Donald Trump, I'm suddenly an enemy of the state, and I could have my citizenship withdrawn according to the government of the day. So I just think there's something that we should be very careful about here. And relating to somebody, the other thing I would say about this chap is at least he had the decency to apologise, unlike a certain Mr. Farage, who seems there's been enough said about him.
Facts, dude. Facts. Sorry, we're all sitting here going, 15 years ago you said mean things about Zionists on Twitter. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage is like, I did not ever intentionally direct abuse at someone in a way that was meant to hurt them. When what he was saying is that Hitler was right and that you should G the J's to Jews. He was saying that to Jews. But this guy's the anti-Semite.
To come out and apologise himself. So maybe we should be looking into his background and consider that he's not a fit person of a decent character, considering the amount of damage he's done to this country. But that's my rant for today.
Well, you've ranted in a very calm way, if I may say so,
thank you very much.
Look, I think the slight difference with Nigel Farage here is that whatever remarks he is alleged to have made, which he denies, they were made when he was a teenager, not an adult.
I don't know how old this chap made these comments back in 10, 12 years ago. How old was he?
I
have no idea.
Actually, that's a good point. I'm sure Eleanor can look his age up, but I think he probably was an adult at that time. I think he's in his... Peter's in Leeds. Hello, Peter.
Hi, I think you need to apologise for one thing that you said, because you said that if anybody had said...
Yeah, dude, how fucking useless is Ian Dale's team, man? Why do you have that on... Like, why are you not ready with the facts there? Why are you not prepped on that?
They would use violence against the police in their youth, then they should basically have their citizenship taken off them.
I didn't say anything of the sort.
You did.
No, I didn't.
When you run your programme, you said that.
I did not say that.
You did.
Well, we can go around in circles however much you like, but I've got nothing. I've got nothing to apologise for.
Nigel Farage has been away earning his £135,000 for his 4 hours' work. Andy Allen, who was his reform councillor in Northumberland, was quoted as saying, I'd shoot Starmer myself if I had a weapon and the opportunity. But Nigel Farage hasn't apologised, and we haven't got rid of his...
Well, Nigel Farage has kicked him out of his party for saying that.
Yeah, Farage, right. Jack Anderson was an advisor to Farage, and on his social media, he said that if the Germans had won the Second World War, it would have been better for Europe and the world. Jack Anderson was promoted.
Have you got a list of these that you're going to go through? Because I've just told you that.
Yes, I've got one more.
Okay. Well, how exciting is that for us all?
I know you and the fellow on Radio 5. I go trying to
spit your shit, caller. Spit your shit, caller. Tell him Farage's wrongdoing. Tell him all the reformer Farage wrongdoing. Give your list. Give your list. We want to hear it.
Well, how exciting is that for us all?
I know you and the fellow on Radio 5. I go trying to be Farage's press secretary.
Hang on.
Dude.
I've always said hang on.
Ian Dale, absolutely mogged by this caller. Absolutely mogged by this caller. Why you let me get this point out, you fucking shill? Dude.
Hang on. It's not Andy Allen, it's John Allen. It's not Andy Allen, it's John Allen. So get your facts right, mate.
Well, the reputable right. Well, Andy Osborne, a council for Cambridgeshire, described the children in care that I look after as being downright evil. That was the first step.
That's true. We watched that. That guy in the Reform Council meeting where he was like, some of these kids in care are just downright evil. You know, he's like saying, you know, basically they're beyond help. There are kids in care that are beyond saving. You should, you know, what do you even do with them? It's just like total fucking ghoul shit to be saying as a local councillor.
Of Hitler's regime in 1939.
Oh my goodness. Well, when you bring Hitler into it, you know you've lost the argument, don't you?
No, when I bring Hitler into it, I know that I'm comparing one leader with another.
Oh, for goodness sake. You're comparing Nigel Farage with Adolf Hitler. Get a grip.
I'm comparing the 10... If you look at a book which was published, The Nazis, 12 Things to Learn from History, and if you look at the contents, and how Hitler won, Farage is using every technique.
Why would he then chuck this man out of his party?
Because the fact that he lets him say it at all, or that he was
how could he possibly have any control over what some jumped-up little local councillor says about something? How would Nigel Farage be able to control that? As soon as he found out about it, he chucked him out of the party.
Meeting saying that this was the way forward for the country.
He chucked him out of the party. What part of that don't you understand?
Look. You think that you are the most intelligent person
in the
world.
I don't at all.
Not. You're a Farage follower.
No, I'm not a Farage follower. I've said countless times. I have said countless times that I do not support Reform UK. I will not vote for them at the next election. So yet again, you're wrong.
Well, I'm glad I've converted you.
You haven't converted. Oh my goodness! You haven't converted me anything. In fact, if anything, you've maybe think I'm wrong to say that, because people like you who just constantly compare a perfectly legitimate.
Like me.
Yeah,
who am I?
You are somebody who likes to compare perfectly legitimate politicians to Adolf Hitler, and you're a disgrace for doing that. Let's go to Kai in St Albans. Hello, Kai.
Oh my God.
Oh, good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, so it's a total racist
Sorry, it's
policy.
Kaz, isn't it, not Kai? Hi.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a racist policy that's targeted towards the freedom of speech of ethnic minorities. You and me could say the same thing online, and you wouldn't receive any repercussions for it, whereas I
really? The things that he's been saying about being anti-Semitic and wanting to burn down Downing Street, you think you or I wouldn't have any repercussions?
Not if he said it in Egypt. The British state would not do stuff against you, I think. You have to actually equalise the crime here. Because he didn't post these tweets while he was in the UK. He didn't even post these tweets while he was a citizen. So the idea that he should be criminally prosecuted by them. I agree our laws are retarded in such a way where he may actually get prosecuted for those tweets. Now, if they're posted in the UK... But, yeah, that doesn't change anything. That just doesn't change the argument at all.
from that.
No. I'm not talking. I'm talking in general. Yeah, this is a specific case, and regardless, you want to set a precedence across the whole of the UK where people can lose their citizenship on the basis of what they say, which means that if you say it, you can get away with it, and if I say it, I can't.
You're attributing views to me which I haven't expressed and don't have.
Well, we can't pick and choose a law for some and not others. So do you want this policy to be implemented across the UK or just on specific people? Or revoking somebody's citizenship?
Well, I haven't actually said that I do think his citizenship should be revoked.
So you don't think it should be revoked?
Well, I said at the beginning of the programme that I think this is a heart versus head issue, where I can absolutely understand where people will sort of have a knee-jerk reaction and think this is outrageous. Of course, his citizenship should be revoked. But when you actually deploy your brain on it rather than thinking with your heart, you might well come to a very different conclusion because of the consequences of doing that. Now, I realise that's slightly sitting on the fence, but
so you are sitting on the fence slightly?
I am sitting on the fence slightly because I remember when the Shamima Begum case happened, where
which is racist, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's why I said, yeah, exactly. It was posted in a different country and he wasn't a citizen. Exactly, yeah. It could well be the case that, you know, let's say you go to fucking Spain, you post a tweet, you could totally be prosecuted for that. But yeah, he wasn't a citizen at the time, and the idea that you can, I don't think you can retroactively apply it like that. And it doesn't have, even if that was a crime, like let's say he could have been prosecuted in some way for that, that him being a criminal explicitly has no bearing on his citizenship, and that is a settled matter by the Supreme Court. So it changes like none of the argument here. It's just like a hypocrisy point, I guess.
Well, I don't think it was racist at all.
Well, why is somebody who's gone out to fight in Ukraine not receiving the same level of justice by losing their citizenship, and she has?
Well, I don't know of any cases in Ukraine of this happening, because fighting in Ukraine, you're actually fighting against a Russian invader, and you are essentially fighting for British and European interests by doing that. If you go to Syria to fight for ISIS or support people who are fighting for ISIS, they are a prescribed terror organisation, so there is a clear difference.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that.
It's got nothing to do with racism. Again, you're bringing, Kaz, you're bringing racism into this for, I think, unjustified reasons.
The reason why I'm bringing racism into it is because there's multiple examples of people who are going out to Palestine, IDF soldiers, and then coming back into society here. The same with Ukraine, and nothing's brought up on it. Whereas if it's a person of colour who ends up in Syria or who says some comments abroad, then it's picked up by the media and blasted across mainstream.
Well, I don't think you can compare those conflicts. There are clear differences between them all.
Wow. Well, then you can't possibly compare them, can you? There's clear differences between them. How could you possibly compare two things which are different, Ian Dale? What a brilliant point.
Idiotic virtue-signalling left-wing lovey celebs should publicly apologise for campaigning to get the racist, anti-white, suicide bomb and police murder advocating Egyptian crackpot over to Britain. Alaa Abd El-Fattah was banged up in Egypt, which is exactly where he belongs. Here are some of his social media posts. I'm a racist, I don't like white people. He called British people dogs and monkeys. Talks about the random shooting of white males. I seriously hate white people. He says, police are not human. They don't have rights. We should just kill them all. He advocated for killing Zionists as well as civilians and said a suicide bombing would be acceptable if it took a few Zionist lives. But a load of thick-as-mint celebrities called for him to come to Britain. Some of them even did stupid little videos, lovingly reading out an essay this random Egyptian bloke wrote from prison. Here is actress Olivia Colman.
Thousands of miserable creatures in Torah prison, waiting for months, years sometimes, for judgments that never come. Will our cases never end, forgotten by the world outside the prison walls?
Here's a load more of these lefty-lovey mugs doing another video about him.
Prime Minister Starmer.
Dear Prime Minister Starmer.
Dear Prime Minister Starmer.
Dear Prime Minister Starmer.
Prime Minister, I'm making this video because I, like a lot of people, and I should imagine yourself included, are deeply concerned.
Dear Prime Minister, I'm reaching out to you today because I'm extremely worried.
I am one of many thousands in Britain and all around the world who are deeply concerned about the fate of the writer Alaa Abd El-Fattah.
The brilliant, courageous and inspiring writer who has been unjustly imprisoned in Egypt for far, far too many years.
You've got Brian Cox there, Bill Nye, Joseph Fiennes. Dame Judi Dench jumped on the bandwagon. She wanted him brought to Britain. There she is. My favourite, though, is actress Emily Watson addressing Sir Keir Starmer.
And I know that you have, in the past, been on the phone on his behalf, but please, now...
Okay, I'm sick of the GB News bullshit.